Hey friends, just a quick reminder before we get into today's episode, come join us over on our Patreon. That's where we release bonus episodes every other week, and we've already got over 20 episodes from 2023 that you can download and binge right now for as little as $3 a month. We've covered so many good books there, Haunting Adeline, Chateau, Gothicana, and so many more. That's also where we'll cover any books in a series we continue, so Serpent and Dove, High Mountain Court, Serpent and the Wings of Night. You can continue those series with us on Patreon right now. Finally, as a patron, we let you know what we're going to read every month, so you can read along with us if that's your jam. Anyway, that's all from me. On to today's episode.
And I am really curious, I mean, this is a ways away, to get back to Elaine's book and see if she's such a cunt. Like, does enough time pass that we forget? Or now that we've done it twice?
You mean Nesta, right?
Yeah, I said Elaine. She's no one. She's a cardboard box. Nesta, my mistake.
She's a cardboard box.
She's a cardboard cutout of a human being.
Welcome to Your Safe Space, the podcast your partner, friends, parents, whoever thinks is dirty. Don't have time to read books? Want to understand the jokes and the TikToks? We got you, fam. We're the Spice Traders, and we deal in spicy books. I'm Katie, and I need it to make sense.
I'm Liz, and I'm hypercritical. As always, we start every episode with 3 things. The first is a generic trigger warning. You can find specific triggers for this book in our show notes, so please check those out. Also, we do use foul language and talk a lot about sex. If you have sensitivity to any of this, please give this episode a skip.
Secondly, we talk about books. The whole book, nothing but the book, so help me goddess. If you plan to read this book and don't want something spoiled right now, don't listen to this episode.
Lastly, we acknowledge that a good book can hit you at the wrong time. The views expressed in our discussion are our opinion, and we absolutely don't want to diminish the work and the talent of the authors in our community. That said, we have some notes.
Katie, what are we talking about today?
Today we are talking about ACOTAR Part 3, which will cover chapters 33 through 45. So if you haven't listened to parts 1 and 2 or read the book, do one of those things because you're going to be lost, Hanny. All right, so where we last left off, Feyre had run into Alice. Alice told her all of the song and dance. There was a huge information dump at the end of part 2. Really should read the book or go listen to that because I'm not going to recap it. But Alice eventually agrees to take Feyre to this, quote, under the mountain place that Tamlin is now being held along with ostensibly everybody else in this fucking world.
So I will say that even though we get the information dump, I was still a little confused on why Amarantha has so much power.
Yeah, so I'm also confused, and like we'll get there when we get there, but like Alice told Feyre that she, Amarantha, stole all of the powers of the High Lords and like can't use them, but like keeps them somehow.
Right.
But we'll see that she also has some magic of her own. So like, where does that come from?
And even though she can't use the power of others, she can like siphon it out, right? Like she can give back controlled amounts of it
to people. Yeah.
Yeah, like that was kind of weird.
Yeah, that was weird. And then it also brings up this question that I don't know the answer to, even having read the books a couple of times. Do all Fae have magic?
I don't know, because why would she not have her own magic?
Well, and if she does have her own magic, but not all Fae have magic, who has magic and for why?
Right, is that what separates the High Lords? Because
right,
they have
'cause
magic?
if it does, like, then what is Amarantha the High Lord of?
Under the mountain. And that's the thing that I don't understand about her power, because if she doesn't have her own power, and she also can't use the power she stole, but she has some power to some extent, because she put the curse on everyone, right? Like, she supposedly has Tamlin in thrall, which, like, listen, I'm not convinced that Tamlin was just controlled the whole time. I think he's also just a piece of shit.
Oh, I fully think he was not controlled the whole time.
No. Like, at the end...
I think he's supposed to shoot.
Well, a piece of shit. We'll get to it. But the, like, oh, I'm free now. I'm like, no. You were just now given permission. You weren't actually released. You could have done this at any time, is what I believe.
Yeah. But that's why, like, going back to Amarantha having power, like, Amarantha does have some kind of power because she fucks Feyre up without touching her.
Yeah.
And, like, creates that energy shield or whatever that, like, fucks Rhys up. But yeah, I just have questions.
I have a lot of questions. And to your point in our debrief, we don't get to know her long enough. Like, we don't spend enough time with her for it to, like, really matter. And then she dies, right? So she's the villain of this book, but she's not the overarching villain. But then I have new questions now about when we get into future books on Rhys being, like, the king of Under the Mountain, but, like, they destroy it. I'm just confused.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait until we get that in book 2 or whatever.
Because what? Like, I don't remember how that's introduced, but, like, the end of this book, and I know I'm jumping ahead, they destroy it and seal it. So then now why is he the king of Under the Mountain?
I can't wait to get there.
Because I read that and I was like, wait, what?
Excuse me?
What? So,
McFucking excuse me? Yeah.
give me that one-line fixer of why that was necessary.
Truly. Well, okay. And so going back to the Amarantha thing, like, I fully don't identify with the fear that people have for Amarantha. And I really wish that we had gotten to know Amarantha as, like, a fairy tale, like, thing, because she was a part of the war 500 years ago. So she could show up in human lore as, like, the lady in red is gonna, it's like Bloody Mary when you were, like, 5 years old, right? Like,
Oh, yeah, and she's really the root of, like, all the Fae are bad lore.
right. And so, you know, that could be something that Feyre is familiar with and that fuels her fear of the Fae. And so when she realizes that she's got to go face the lady in red because, whoopsie, she's still alive.
And she's
like,
real.
And she's real. That could be, like, really powerful. But to just dump this person in the last third of the book that we're supposed to have this, like, visceral fear of, it's just hard to get behind.
Yeah, and I don't buy it.
No, I don't buy it. Anyway, so Feyre's going to the Under the Mountain place, right? So Alice shows her the cave, the magic tunnel cave that the Ator used, and we learn that there are magic caves throughout the countryside that lead other places, specific other places. They're like shortcuts, but we don't know how many there are, and this one is apparently not very well used because it leads under the mountain. So
And no one wants to go there.
no one wants to go there. So before they part, Alice tells Feyre a couple of things. She says, quote, "Don't drink the wine. It's not like what we had at the solstice and will do more harm than good. Don't make deals with anyone unless your life depends on it, and even then, consider whether it's worth it. And most of all, don't trust a soul in there, not even your Tamlin. Your senses are your greatest enemies. They will be waiting to destroy you." She then tells Feyre that there's one last part of the curse on Tamlin that she and no one else can tell Feyre because Amarantha doesn't want her to know. So Feyre should listen and use her ears to kind of discern what people are actually trying to say.
Does that last one actually come up?
Yeah, because
Okay.
it's the Heart of Stone thing.
Oh, okay. I forgot about that. Because everything else, I was like, cool, she broke that.
Yep. Cool. Really great listener. So Feyre thanks Alice and tells her that if Alice ever needs a safe place, that she should go south of the wall to Feyre's family and ask for Nesta. She knows that Nesta will protect Alice and her boys. And I feel like that is not something she should have said.
Why would she think that?
Nesta did one semi-decent thing for Feyre, and suddenly Feyre's like, oh, she's a decent human who would do anything, blah, blah, blah.
For
she,
anyone.
are you fucking kidding me? No, she would kick these people out of, her house in an instant.
And also, like, Nesta has her newfound, like, money and status. She's not going to risk that to take in a fairy.
No, especially since this fairy ostensibly can't glamour herself, and nor can Nesta. So you're just going to have these, like, fairies that look like tree bark.
I forgot they look like
bopping around
tree bark.
in your house. That's not gonna. No, it's not gonna fly.
No, that didn't make any sense to me. I was just like, okay, girl. Like, I'm glad
Whatever.
Nesta did that one good thing, but she's not redeemed.
Far from it.
She's not a different person.
No. But fortunately, that doesn't come up for poor Alice and the boys. So they part ways and Feyre enters the cave and it's frigid. It's a fraught walk for what feels like hours in the dark until she finally comes upon a break in the wall where orange light and all manner of weird sounds are pouring out of it. It looks like this crack is hardly used and it's barely big enough for one person to slip through. But Feyre remembers Alice's warning not to trust her eyes. So despite this, she pushes through, worrying for Tamlin, who has now been under the mountain for weeks, she tells us.
The time frame in here got a little weird to me.
Yeah, same. I thought she was only gone for
A couple days.
maybe a week,
Yeah.
but I could have missed it. Anyway, Feyre pushes herself through and finds herself in a hallway. Before she gets very far, though, the Ator intercepts her, and Feyre recognizes it by its voice. But now that she can see it, she describes it as having leathery gray skin on its face, with bat-like ears and silver fangs, leathery wings, clawed feet, and a slithering gait. Feyre doesn't say anything to it as it leads her to the throne room. She only muses how remarkably similar it looked to how she had rendered the Ator in her paintings. I did wonder about this, like, is that some kind of foreshadowing for Feyre having, like, a second sight or something like that?
I wondered about that too.
Because why say it otherwise?
Right, but it feels like such a one-off. Like, we don't get similar things later.
Not that I remember, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we might. And I will say that for SJM, she does do a good job of, like, leaving cookie crumbs and, like, I feel like her plot is well thought out. So we get that information, so I feel like it must mean something. Maybe it doesn't, but like I feel pretty confident that it was supposed to be. Maybe it wasn't executed, but I think it was intentional.
Yeah, I agree. It still makes me laugh to think that Feyre is actually bad at painting, and so she thinks that it looks the same, but her paintings look wildly different to her than they do in real life.
There's just like a stick figure with wings, and she's like, oh yes, that.
Ah, perfect. Perfect rendering. God, it could be a picture.
No, I'm keeping that headcanon forever, that she's just bad at it.
So instead of saying out loud, Feyre internally chants the names of those for whom she fights. Quote, Tamlin, Alice and her boys, my sisters, Lucian.
You know who she doesn't
Which,
name?
like,
her dad.
her dad. Yeah, fuck that guy.
Just saying.
It's also a little weird to me that she so easily takes on the mantle of, like, basically strangers.
So, I thought that was weird too. These are also because she falls in the trap of our female main character who has no friends. These are the only people she knows.
That's true.
She knows-
These are the only people that she knows.
No one else. Because she's never really... I mean, she's met Rhys. And she met the 3 fairies who were going to rape her. But, like, she knows no one else.
She knows, like, a handful of other people from her town, but they don't like her very much.
And she doesn't seem to like them.
Yeah. That's a really funny point. And I have to think that it's because, like, her life mission that she, like, promised her dying mother is now gone. And so she's, like, grasping at straws at what to do with herself.
Give me some meaning to my life.
Yeah, basically.
So it's the... And, just also really quick, she's actually never met Alice's sons.
That's true.
Because they're not even Alice's sons, they're her nephews.
Correct.
So she also added in 2 randos.
That's so true. Okay. On the way to the throne room, she's clocked that there are many other fairies, like lesser fae, around, but not many high fae. But once inside, she realizes that the vast room is filled with high fae. It's a place that's supported by pillars that are carved with figures depicting the stories of Pyrthian. The walls and these pillars are made of lightstone and the floor is red marble. The high fae here are having some kind of party. The Ator leads her to the end of the room and throws her down before the throne, and that's where Feyre beholds Amarantha for the first time. She describes her thusly, quote, Though lovely, she wasn't as devastatingly beautiful as I had imagined, wasn't some goddess of darkness and spite. It made her all the more petrifying. Her red gold hair was neatly braided and woven through her golden crown, the deep color enriching her snow-white skin, which in turn set off her ruby lips. But while her ebony eyes shone, there was something that sucked at her beauty, some kind of permanent sneer to her features that made her allure seem contrived and cold. She then adds, "To paint her would have driven me to madness," end quote.
Which would be a very lovely and powerful line if I was convinced you were good at painting.
Yeah.
Sorry, Farrah.
I'm so sorry, Feyre.
I just like can't.
Feyre also clocks that Amarantha wears a rather peculiar necklace that has a very old bone on it as a pendant. She describes it as being about the size of a finger.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
It's a finger.
It's a finger. Next to Amarantha is Tamlin, and he doesn't show a modicum of recognition when Feyre is brought before them. Feyre tells Amarantha that she's come to claim Tamlin, the one she loves. Amarantha is delighted and entertained, but the only reaction that Tamlin shows is that he looks away when Amarantha gleefully claps her hands. Feyre thinks that he must be under some kind of spell. She then notices that Amarantha wears a ring with a human eyeball encased in silver.
Eyeballs are big, man. That thing's big.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It should be noted that eyeball is like sentient, so it like moves around and looks at things, which is just terrifying.
It's like a mad eye, moody eye, but on her hand instead of her face.
Great description.
That's exactly what I pictured the whole time.
Amarantha directs Feyre's attention to the back wall, where the mangled body of Claire Bedor is nailed. Claire was tortured in Feyre's place, and Amarantha asks Feyre if she would still claim someone who would let that happen. Feyre says that she would. Amarantha asks Tamlin what he thinks, and he says that he's never seen Feyre before, that it must be Rhysand playing another joke. But Amarantha sees through this and muses that Tamlin must really love Feyre despite the worlds in between them. She says to her ring that Jurian is the only one who can truly appreciate the moment, and Feyre realizes that it's Jurian's eye that must be in her ring, and somehow his consciousness is tied to it.
Gross.
Gross.
So gross. It was in here that I just, this whole time, as we continue, I continue to question Tamlin as, why he's not responding. The easy answer is that he's trying to protect her by not responding. But I just don't buy that he loves her, that he could have such a poker face this whole fucking time.
Yeah, well, I think I have questions about that too, because as we'll learn with his stone heart, does that mean he can have any emotions, really?
That's a good point.
So Amarantha muses that she's bored, and so she wants to play with Feyre rather than killing her on the spot. So she offers Feyre to complete 3 challenges of Amarantha's choosing, and then she can have Tamlin. Feyre makes the bargain more specific, insisting that if she succeeds, Tamlin's curse will be broken and that all of his court may leave and be free forever. Amarantha agrees and also adds that Feyre can answer a riddle at any time instead of completing the challenges and be free instantaneously. If Feyre answers the riddle wrong, though, she'll end up like Claire. Feyre asks what happens if she fails a task, and Amarantha tells her simply, quote, "If you fail a task, there won't be anything left of you for me to play with."
Oof.
Cool. Okay, but I have questions about this later because, going back to not believing Amarantha as a credible, threat, these challenges are kind of bullshit.
They're total bullshit. Okay, especially, and we're going to get there in this part, but especially the second challenge. What
the fuck was that? Yeah.
I'll save my thoughts for when we're there, but what the fuck was that? They're all bullshit. And,
right.
And this is so mind gamey because, this warning, there'll be nothing left of you for me to play with, is only true of the first one. The third task
Maybe the second one.
Maybe the second one, we don't know, because what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
The third one is purely a mind game.
Yeah, there was no physical danger posed.
At all.
Amarantha tells Feyre that each task will occur on the full moon, so once a month, and in between challenges, Feyre will do chores and or stay in her cell. Feyre sees Tamlin widen his eyes at her ever so slightly as if to tell her, no, don't do this. And from that gesture alone, she thinks that he still loves her.
Okay.
Feyre agrees to the terms that Amarantha put forth, and the Ator and 2 lesser Fae immediately start beating Feyre up, breaking her nose and causing her to black out.
They immediately beat the shit out of her.
Yeah, okay. When Feyre wakes up, she's in a dungeon cell. Her nose is broken, but that's the worst of the damage, somehow. Somehow. She hugs her knees closed to keep from panicking. She hears tortured cries start up from somewhere further down the hall, and Feyre knows she is in deep shit. She blames herself for Claire's death, for Tamlin's situation. She tells herself she deserves whatever pain and suffering she gets, but she vows to herself to somehow make it right. And this is where Feyre loves to be the victim. She loves for everything to be her fault.
Yeah, like, the whole Claire thing, okay, you are partially responsible because you gave her name. Tamlin's situation you had nothing to do with.
Truly, like, he made his own bed, actually.
Yeah, years ago he made his own bed.
Before you were even born.
And also, like, I don't know, he could have tried a little harder earlier in this book. If he wanted to, he would. And I don't think he wanted to.
Oof. Yeah. Yikes. Sometime later, Lucian visits Feyre and scolds her for coming. But he heals her enough so that she's not in agonizing pain, fixing her broken nose. But he leaves the bruises so as not to draw attention to the fact that she's been healed.
Thanks, man. Also, this one-line fixery here because Feyre's like, I thought you didn't have magic. And he's like, Amarantha gave me some back. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because she was trying to entice Tamlin to, like, bed her. And I'm like,
why would you give your, like, butt buddy I don't.
Okay. This is the other thing that I don't really understand. Like, if Amarantha really wanted to, she could rape Tamlin because she's raping Rhys.
Uh-huh. And
I don't understand that.
No, and she supposedly has Tamlin in such a thrall that he, like, can't respond, right? Like, I know it's not like a physical thrall, but, like, he can't even, like, emit any emotion. So, yeah, she's raping Rhys. Why not just take Tamlin?
Right. But she's, like, given Lucian back some of his power to try to get him to, like, accept being her lover. And I'm like, what?
Why?
Excuse me?
What? And there's a lot of things about Amarantha that I just don't get. And I think it's because she's just supposed to be, like, unhinged. But I'm not sold on her as a villain. And I think a lot of that is because we meet her in the last 30% of this book. She hasn't, like, to your point, we didn't already know of her as a character. So it's kind of like half-assed. It's like getting through a Disney movie and you don't meet the villain until the last 20 minutes.
Yeah, well, and it's like we were shown the head on a spike, the guy with his wings ripped off, but, like, I'm sorry, but those things happen to other people. Like, life in the Spring Court doesn't seem particularly, like, bad.
No, they're just wearing masks. And even the head on a spike, they kind of chalk that up to Rhys. They don't even blame that on Amarantha.
Right. And even the lesser fae that, like, are dangerous and, like, roaming the countryside, we don't hear about any consequences those pose to, like, the remaining citizens of the Spring Court. It's just, like, an annoyance that Tamlin has to, like, deal with it.
Just has to go, like, hunt them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and, like, they're dangerous, but with the exception of that one fae that got his wings ripped off, who wasn't even part of the Spring Court, there seems to be no danger. They're fine. They're inconvenienced by their beautiful masks.
Exactly. Yeah. So Lucian goes on to tell Feyre that Amarantha did indeed torture Jurian before trapping his soul in that ring.
Gross.
And also, I don't know when we figure this out. It might be here, but that bone around her neck is also Jurian's.
Yeah. But it's not sentient, right? It's just a
right.
bone.
It's not sentient. The bone can't sense things.
Gross.
I hope. Lucian then goes to tell her something else, but he hears someone approaching, so instead he tells her to try not to die before turning invisible? ? This is what it says. It says, quote, Lucian vanished, just vanished into the dim light. A moment later, a yellowish eye tinged with red appeared at the peephole in the door, glared at me, and continued onward. Since when can Lucian turn invisible and phase through objects?
Right, like since when can he teleport? Or does he simply go invisible and then sneak out later when Feyre's asleep?
Well, because, riddle me that, because that's supposed to be a benefit that only Rhysand has.
So why can he do this?
Right.
And that's where, like, okay, it's sort of a footnote to my point before, where I do feel like Sarah J. Maas is intentional. This feels very much like a first book. Like, she's playing around with, like, the power she wants to have, and then sets rules later that are contradicted in this book.
Right. Exactly.
Also, in my headcanon, Lucian is just standing there the whole time until Feyre goes to sleep. Because he can't phase through walls, so he's just like, well, shit.
Yeah, I'm just stuck here.
Just gonna stand here now. But I also don't want to talk to you anymore, so.
No, I don't want to talk to you, so just go to sleep. Thank you so much.
Sleep.
So, on some other day, when Feyre's brought back into the throne room again, Amarantha asks for her name. Feyre doesn't immediately give it up, so Amarantha has the Ator pull Lucian from the crowd and summons Rhysand to go spelunking into Lucian's mind. Lucian is determined to not give any secrets away that Feyre won't give on her own, so he grits his teeth as the rest of the court and his 4 remaining brothers watch with glee.
Gross. I thought he killed, his remaining brothers. He had 6.
His remaining brothers, yeah. Okay. But as Lucian cries out with pain, Feyre tells Amarantha her name. Then Feyre tells us, quote, everything became thick and murky. Why did Tamlin do nothing, say nothing? What had Lucian been about to say before he'd fled my cell? Amarantha's dark eyes shone, and I had cleared my mind as best that I could as she spoke. Why is it thick and murky? Like, she's ostensibly fine. Like, she's not being beat up or whatever.
No, she's not being concussed. Like, and to your point, I do think that something else is happening here.
Yeah.
That allows her to clear her mind. And it doesn't make sense, though, because, again, isn't this something that's contradicted later?
How so?
Can Rhysand fuck with her head?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought...
Definitely.
I don't know why, but I think I'm bringing in some other book that I'm not placing right now, where, like, she's immune to it. Is that in another book?
That's my book.
That's your book!
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? I think that's a compliment.
I feel pretty good about it.
Because that is in my brain. It's like, this is a book I've read where this is a problem.
Yeah, no, I definitely think Rhysand is doing some tomfuckery here.
Yeah.
So anyway, Amarantha goes on to tell Feyre her riddle. And the riddle is this, quote, there are those who seek me a lifetime, but we never meet. And those I kiss, but whom trample me beneath ungrateful feet. At times, I seem to favor the clever and the fair, but I bless all those who are brave enough to dare. By large, my ministrations are soft-handed and sweet, but scorned, I become a difficult beast to defeat. For though each of my strikes lands a powerful blow, when I kill, I do it slow. After hearing the riddle, Feyre realizes that Amarantha had said that if she solved the riddle, they could be free immediately, and she wonders briefly if she fucked herself on that other bargain by not stipulating a timeline, but she pushes that thought from her mind as she grapples for an answer.
That is some fun, I don't know if it's intentional, but that is some fun foreshadowing on stipulating a timeline, because that does come up in a different way.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah.
she just doesn't think about here, but I was like, oh,
I love that too. Feyre then thinks immediately about like really literal things like typhus or other sicknesses that could kill people. But she comes up with nothing that fits the bill of the riddle. And so as they lock her in her cell, she has a sinking feeling that she is destined to lose this wager.
Which, it makes sense that she would go that way, but because it fits in the character of her that we know that she doesn't read, she can't read. So she clearly doesn't know what a riddle is, because it's never the obvious solution. It's not going to be a poison. It's not going to be an illness.
Right. It's going to be something else. So then, all too soon, the first trial arrives. And I think this is when we get confirmation that Rhysand was actually looking around in her head before, because Amarantha tells her that Rhysand told her that Feyre is a huntress. And she tells her this in the context of like, oh, I did some research, which I read as somebody else did research for me.
And told me the answer I wanted.
Right. And also because Feyre didn't tell Rhysand that, and I feel like no one else would have either, like, unless he inferred it from the curse or whatever, but like, it seems like information he could have easily gleaned if he was like casually mind reading.
Yeah, like he may have gotten it from like from Lucian's head, but
Yeah, possibly.
But I think you're right. That's probably Feyre's head. Because but we're told that Lucian wouldn't have given anything, and ostensibly that would be something that would be a benefit to Feyre, so wouldn't want Amarantha to know.
Right. Either way, this trial takes place in an underground arena with a mud maze carved into the floor. Feyre is tossed into the maze with walls that are 20 feet high, and there's a giant worm with razor-sharp teeth that is let loose in there with her. Her task is to hunt this creature. On a raised platform overlooking this kind of pit, Amarantha and her court sit and wait. All of the High Lords are there with her.
The only thing I can picture, the first time I read this book and this time, is that giant sandworm from SpongeBob.
Yes, same.
Is the only thing I can see, which makes it not that scary to me.
Yeah, it's kind of cute.
Well, like, and it's a cartoon in my head. Like, everything else isn't cartoony, but that sandworm is just like, it's like Space Jam up in here. Like, I have real actors and this cartoon sandworm.
But it's fully like 2D, like one-dimensional for me.
Yes. Yeah, which is also weird.
Yeah.
It's like a side-scroller video game.
Right. So Feyre runs blindly, filled with terror from this worm. She's able to squeeze through a crack in one of the walls and escape for a moment, and it's then that she realizes that the worm must be blind and rely on smell to navigate. She can tell by reading the crowd that the worm is on the other end of the maze, so it's then that she takes inventory. She has landed herself in a pit and realizes that this place that she's at is this worm's den because it's filled with bones.
Gross.
She uses those bones to create a ladder to get up on top of the mud walls. She also breaks a bunch and puts them in the ground like pikes, setting a trap for this worm that she prays will work. Then she climbs up on top of the wall, using her bone ladder, and covers herself in mud, camouflaging her scent.
Also in my head, this wasn't mud. It was just a bunch of worm shit.
I know. That's what it is. That's what she describes it as being. Like, it's decaying worm shit and a little bit of mud.
And a little bit of dirt.
Yeah.
Gross.
As she's doing this, she hears chatter from the platform above her. She hears someone ask what the fuck she's doing, and it's Rhysand that says that she's building a trap. We get confirmation here that the Middengard, the worm, relies on scent to see, so Rhysand says, quote, Feyre just became invisible.
I do like this narration we get from Rhys's point of view.
I do too. So Feyre then goes to find the worm. When she locates it, she cuts her palm to entice it with the smell of her blood. But her plan goes a little bit awry because she tries to entice it, but it's disappeared.
What?
And for a moment, she doesn't know what to do, but then it's Lucian who alerts her to where it's gone a split second before it tries to eat her. She then runs, leading this worm into her trap. As she jumps down into the safe spot that she's made for herself, a bone goes through her arm, but she barely registers the pain through the adrenaline and relief as the worm impales itself on countless bones and dies.
So her trap works, which is great.
Huzzah. There was much
Huzzah.
rejoicing.
There's no rejoicing. She rejoices. Everyone else is like, damn. Curses.
She scales the wall and throws her remaining bone sword at Amarantha, and it sticks in the mud at her feet, splattering her with foul-smelling filth.
Yes, good.
Amarantha tells Feyre that her court lost a lot of money based on her performance. Only one person bet that she would win.
Can we guess who it is?
Spoilers. As Feyre's taken back to her cell, she's too drained and in too much pain to glance at Tamlin or thank Lucian. She just passes out. As the days pass, her arm doesn't improve, and eventually fever overtakes her. It's then that Rhysand pays her a visit. He offers her a bargain. She lives with him in the night court for 2 weeks each month of his choosing, and he'll heal her. It wouldn't start until after the trials, and Feyre doesn't clock immediately that he believes that she will succeed. He's just like, yeah, after all this nonsense, we'll do this. And
When you're
she's like,
clearly still alive.
Right. I'm trying to keep alive right now, but okay.
But fine.
So Feyre says no, but Rhysand puts her situation in terrifying terms. He tells her that no one is coming to save her, especially not after Tamlin had to give Lucien 20 lashes for Lucien helping Feyre in the trial. And Feyre is dying. This is her only chance.
Well.
So just as Rhysand is about to leave, Feyre tells him to wait. She bargains down to 10 days rather than 2 weeks and accepts his offer. He heals her arm and also bathes her in the process somehow. It's not like she takes a bath or gets naked. It's just she's clean now.
Yeah, he just kind of cleansed her body of all the worm filth.
Yeah. But she's now left with basically a tattoo on her left arm sealing the deal.
Ooh.
Ooh. It's described as looking like a black glove. It goes almost all the way up to, I think, her shoulder.
Yeah.
But it's very noticeable.
It's not a little inside the wrist stamp. It is a full sleeve.
Yes. So over the next couple of days, Feyre is given a series of tasks. The first one is she must clean the floors in some hallway. And if she does not do so, she will be roasted over a spit. But she's only given dirty water to do so, and she realizes the harder that she tries to clean the floor, the more mud she's creating. But then Lucien's mom appears somewhere in the hall and turns the water clean and tells Feyre that her debt is paid for Feyre sparing Lucien's life when she stopped Rhysand from going spelunking. Cool, thanks, Mom.
I'm also so confused by everything that's happening here because don't these people have shit to do in their own courts? And again, to Amarantha's power, how are they all held here? Why is Lucien's mom not in the Autumn Court?
So we do get a one-line fixer for that specifically. No one's allowed to leave until after the trials are over. That's one thing.
Okay.
My question is, how do you... If you want to have your thumb on everybody so badly, how are you not doing it better?
And, how is she not being guarded right now? And people just go to her cell?
That's the thing. Your guards just walked away.
Yeah. Because Lucien gives a little one-line picture of, oh, the guards are drunk. And then, Rhysand, I guess, can teleport. But, what?
Yeah, but so she says that, something about this hallway, she can't leave. There's doors, they're all locked or something. And I'm what fucking hallway has doors? That's a room, not a hallway.
Also, this whole thing of, if you don't clean the floors, you're going to be roasted over a spit. No, you're not. Because the whole point was that Amarantha wanted to play with you, and she would be violating the terms of her own bargain, which Faye can't do.
Right.
So, Lucien's mom, cool, you didn't repay a debt. You just made her afternoon less inconvenient. She probably would have gotten the shit beat out of her, but she wouldn't have been killed.
Probably.
I guess it doesn't just matter, but just why are you here? And if she can't leave, how did people get into the hallway?
That's the thing. The math is not mathing.
The math ain't mathin'.
Anyway, the next task is to pick lentils out of a fireplace. And it becomes clear relatively quickly that this fireplace is in Rhysand's room because Rhysand waltzes in. He was previously unaware that Feyre was being forced to do these tasks, and Feyre suggests that it might be Amarantha getting back at him for lying about Claire/Feyre. He shrugs that off, saying that things get boring down here day after day, but Feyre points out that he gets out pretty often. The fire night, head on the fountain, blah, blah. And so Rhysand's 1, she told me to put that head out there. 2, fire night cost me. But he doesn't say more. Cool. Good talk.
Good talk.
So then Feyre gets really fucking chatty, and she goes on to ask about the power that Rhysand retains, but he tells her that his power was a whole lot bigger, and so the party tricks that he's left with seem like a lot more, but it's a false equivalency to say that he gets more of a longer leash. He just had more power to begin with, and so if you take 20% of a bigger number than everybody else, it's going to seem more powerful, or it's going to seem like he's gotten more favors.
Which... fine, but that still brings up questions about the math with Amarantha, because why didn't she take everyone down at the same level? Or is this
That's a good question.
The 1% where you just get your benefit because you're more powerful? I don't know. Wouldn't you want to cripple the more powerful people even more?
You would think so. I do wonder, and I feel like maybe we get some confirmation of this later. I do wonder if Rhysand actually did get a little bit more of a longer leash because Amarantha was convinced that he loved her most of the time.
Yeah, I think he says this to Feyre, but I do think he gets a bit of a longer leash in other respects. Also, well, this is where I'm still confused, where he's the head of 2 courts, but like, why does this court exist after this book? Anyway.
Too many questions.
It's gonna bother me until the second book.
So then Feyre asks about the beast forms, and so he shows her most of his beast form. And he tells her that all High Lords have one. When he shows her his, it has black talons for hands and feet, and then huge membranous bat wings.
Well, I was just thinking that because and I'm jumping into future books, we meet the Bat Boys, and that's not a High Lord beast form. It's a different, like, species?
It's a different species of Fae, yeah.
Yeah, so, like, that's not really what's happening here.
I had questions about that, too, because, like, I wonder if the bat wings would have been part of his beast form if he wasn't a half-breed. You know?
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Or if it would have just been, like, the claws and shit.
Yeah, but he gets the wings as a bonus because he does have that half-breed.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
One thing that I will say about, like, this interaction and then the other interactions that Feyre has with Rhysand is that the language that Feyre uses to describe Rhysand is very different from how she describes Tamlin.
Yes.
Like, she calls Tamlin, oh, he's so handsome and good-looking and strong, and he's everything that a woman would want, right?
Masculine.
And then with Rhysand, she's just like, he's fucking gorgeous. Like,
he's
the
beautiful.
way that he smirks is perfect.
Yeah, it is a stark difference. Like, it's
Yeah.
like recognizing Tamlin as a
Good-looking guy.
you're a good looking guy. I can recognize this. And Rhysand is like, I would like to jump your bones right now if I wasn't near death. Thank you.
Immediately. Thank you.
Immediately.
So after he's put on his little show and tell, Rhysand, like, snaps his fingers and he cleans the ashes that she's covered in, fills her bucket with lentils, and also makes his fireplace cleaner. So when the lesser fae that are like her guards or whatever, slave drivers, come to grab her, he mind controls them into not manhandling her and to also stop making her do chores and to tell their friends. And if any of them go against this order, that they're to take their own sword and gut themselves. My question is, isn't this on the order of Amarantha?
Yeah. So if he can do this, why not just control anyone to go kill Amarantha?
Great question. Great question.
The math ain't mathin'.
Yeah. So then one night, 2 high fae come to get Feyre from her cell. They are wreathed in shadows and they, like, walk in and out of the walls like Rhysand can do. And so this leads Feyre to assume that Rhysand sent them. These 2 bathe her and then paint her body and put her in the skimpiest dress possible. And it's then that Rhysand shows up and says that she's his date to a party. The paint is to let him know if anybody has touched her. And he adds that her own movements, the dress, and his own touch won't affect it.
That's not true, though.
Does he say his own touch won't affect it?
I don't know, because later his touch affects it.
I have to look this up.
Yeah. Also, is she painted blue?
Yeah, like dark blue, like her tattoo.
That's it. Because in my head, this was very Guild and she was gold. And then later when Rhys's hands are blue, I was like, why the fuck are they blue?
In my head, they were like Blue Man Group blue. I was like, that's weird.
It's so attractive. I thought he said his own touch is fine too, but later it's not true. So I don't know if that's a plot hole. I'm glad you're looking for it.
Okay, so he doesn't say that his movements will, or that his touch won't smear the paint, but this is what it says. Quote, he ran a finger along my shoulder, smearing the paint. As soon as his finger left my skin, the paint fixed itself, returning the design to its original form.
That doesn't happen later.
It doesn't happen later, but maybe it's because it's magic paint and he doesn't want it to happen later.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a tough one for me.
That's a tough one too, and it also kind of gets into the like gray area of like, is Rhysand actually evil because he's just doing whatever he wants to Feyre while she's drunk, and like he can fix the paint later, so it doesn't actually matter.
I know. See, I don't like that. Like, we get the, oh, I didn't want you to remember the trauma, but I also don't buy that, because why can't she just be in her cell?
Yeah.
Like, is he the one bringing her to these parties and getting her drunk, or was that on Amarantha's orders? Because it can't be, right? Because we would have been told that. So him getting her drunk so she doesn't remember the trauma, you could have just left her alone, and she wouldn't have been
left her alone.
traumatized.
Yeah.
So I'm suspicious. I'm suspicious.
That dog don't hunt.
No, a dog don't hunt with me.
Anyway, so they go into the throne room where a party is being held, and it's at this moment that Rhysand chooses to reveal to everyone Feyre and his bargain. Feyre can tell that Tamlin isn't so happy because of the white-knuckled grip he has on his chair, but he shows no other outward signs of affectation.
Okay.
Rhysand then takes her to a secluded table, makes her drink wine, which causes her to black out immediately. When she wakes up, she's violently hungover, and Lucian comes to see her.
Where are her guards? Okay.
These guards are shit, man.
And why was she even allowed to be taken to a party?
That's a great question. I wish I knew the answer.
It doesn't make sense, Katie.
Is she guarded or is she not? I don't understand. Do they not guard her because the door is locked, and so they're like, how is she going to get out?
But people can just come in? The door's only locked from the inside? The call is coming from inside the house?
Right?
Visiting hours.
Anyway, Lucian tells her that she was dancing all night, and it wasn't the, like, prim and proper kind of dancing. It was, like, hoe dancing.
Not a hoe down, to be clear.
And when she... Not a hoe down, no. When she wasn't dancing, she was sitting on Rhysand's lap. The only paint smudged is at her waist, and Lucian says it was from Rhysand trying to get a rise out of Tamlin, which he also says didn't work. He goes on to tell her that she was foolish for making a deal with Rhysand, but she tells him she didn't have a choice. He tells her he would have come sooner, but he wasn't able to move because of the lashings and Amarantha removing magic to allow it to heal. So this is another thing where, like, Amarantha's very, like, selectively able to move magic around, and I just don't understand how that works.
Me either. Also, let me get this straight. You took me out of my prison cell, painted me blue, put me in a slutty dress, got me blackout drunk, returned me to my cell, and didn't even remove the paint from my body? Is she just blue for the next 2 months?
Or give me, like, heavier clothes, because she's the things that she's in are basically, like, sheer panels.
Yeah,
of,
so, like,
nothing.
Why?
Yeah.
I don't understand the motive to do this.
It would have made this whole thing more interesting if he had bathed her, put her in fresh, warm clothes, because her cell is described as being frigid.
Yes.
And not made her violently hungover the next day.
No, but he leaves her violently hungover, colder than she probably was before, and blue.
Yes. Awesome.
And I'm sorry, again, you're trying to protect her from the trauma, but if I wake up every day for a month with no memory of the night before, I'm not going to feel protected.
No, I'm not going to feel particularly good about that.
Also, you're giving her no time for critical thinking because she's hungover every day.
Nor are you giving her a chance to rest. I mean, she does say that she's sleeping during the day and then, like, partying during the night, I guess, and the don't do any more chores thing worked. But, like, that's not healthy. Like, you're not setting her up for success in her next trial.
No. Also, like, is she eating? Is she drinking water? I don't understand the motives behind any of this. And I know it's such, like, a pivotal point in this book and kind of in their romance, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
I will say the one thing that he does do is he has 2 hot, not moldy meals sent to her.
I forgot about that. She is given real food now.
She is given real food. So, like, I don't know. It's such a gray line.
But
you know?
why can he do that?
That's what I don't understand. And that's the thing of, like, as soon as Amarantha saw him, I don't understand why she wasn't pissed.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's supposed to be her whore, right? And, like, if I'm Amarantha and and me and Rizan be fucking, like, I would be pretty pissed that he's messing around with this human.
Not only this human, but this human that I'm trying to destroy, but now, like, my whore brought their own pet whore to my party.
I'm the only one that has whores. My horse can't have whores.
Exactly. Because also, like, what are you supposed to do with me if you got this girl on your lap all night?
Exactly. So night after night, it's the same, but the wine makes Feyre not remember any of it, and each night she only gets a glimpse of Tamlin. She's never violated, as far as we know, more than the humiliation of dancing, and every day she sleeps off the hangover.
I don't believe that either.
I don't believe it either.
I don't believe that no one else is fucking with her.
It's especially not Rizan, like...
Yeah.
Before long, though, it's the eve of her second task. Rizan reminds her of it and wonders whether she'll beg for a night alone with her beloved, with Tamlin. She tells Rhys that she'll have plenty of time with Tamlin when she's done with these tasks. She asks Rizan what it cost him to have his court fall, and she feels the sadness of Rizan within herself. She thinks that this is linked to the tattoo and the bargain, and she pushes him to give her more information about Amarantha's plans and the threat that she poses, but Rizan shuts that line of questioning down immediately, and they go to the party. But this time, Amarantha has summoned Rizan for a purpose. There is a subject of the summer court found trying to escape, kneeling in the center of the throne room. Feyre notices that the High Lord of the Summer Court is nearby, and he's looking a little tense. Rizan is commanded to find out why the Lordling was leaving, and so he goes spelunking in this dude's mind. He eventually tells Amarantha that this guy wanted to flee for his own cowardice and nothing more, but Feyre wonders, based on the modicum of relief that she sees in the High Lord of the Summer Court, if that was entirely true. And I can't help but wonder whether she was the only person that could have possibly seen this.
Yeah. No.
Like, she's reading the room pretty fucking well.
She is, which tells me that she's not the only one.
I can't believe she's the only one.
I can't believe she's the only one. Also, she's been partying for a month. Like,
Yeah.
her critical thinking skills are not on point.
So Rizan is then ordered to shatter the Fae's mind, but instead Rizan kills him just using his mind powers.
Oof.
And Amarantha's like, wah, and Rizan's like, whoops, and so they walk away.
My bad.
Yeah. They retreat to a corner of the room to resume their nightly routine, and as they do so, Feyre hears people calling Rizan Amarantha's whore, but she also hears other people murmur that Rizan was right to kill the traitor.
Because he was saving the traitor, really.
Yes.
Which I also don't understand why more people didn't see that. That seemed really obvious to me. Instead, he's just like, oh, I'm just so strong. Sorry, Amarantha.
Oops.
My bad.
I don't know how to control my powers that I've had for thousands of years.
And that you took some of them away from me.
Oh, wow. I just don't know my own strength. Boo. Jesus.
It's ridiculous.
Okay. So, gentle reader, you might have thought that the first task was a little bit metal. And you would be right. The first task was truly horrendous. The second task is essentially an SAT math problem that we can't read because Feyre can't read. So let me tell you what happens. We don't know. The second task arrives, and this time Lucian is a part of it. So they're in another arena, another sunken floor place, right? But this time there's like a giant metal grate in the middle of it, and Lucian's on one side and Feyre's on the other. Amarantha and Tamlin are on the dais watching, and the rest of the people are kind of around the sides in the regular stands. There are two scorching hot grates that are slowly lowered into these two chambers that Feyre and Lucian are in, and Feyre can stop them by pulling the correct lever. How does she know what lever to pull? Well, there's a word problem on the wall in front of her, but she can't read it, so we don't know what it says. I imagine it's some kind of math problem, though, because the levers are numbered 1, 2, and 3.
It's either a math problem or it's another kind of riddle, like the poison riddle in Sorcerer's Stone.
Yeah. I picture it being this math problem. She says grasshoppers, so I'm going to use grasshoppers.
You have a math problem.
One grasshopper enters a train going east. Another grasshopper enters a train going west. They leave 30 minutes apart, and one train is going 20 miles slower than the other one. What color pants was the first grasshopper wearing?
That's perfect.
I made it up.
You made it up?
Well, usually I describe math problems as like 2 trains leave the station 30 minutes apart. One of them's going 30 miles an hour faster. What color is the conductor's hat?
Yeah. Because that's how they feel. I like that.
Yeah.
What color? Grasshopper pants.
So because Feyre can't read, she's like taking a long time, and Lucian is begging her to pick one, and everybody's laughing at her. So she's like, okay, I'm going to go for lever number 2. As she reaches for lever number 2, pain lances through her. So she's like, okay, not lever number 2. Lever number 1, same thing. Pain lances through her. She's like, okay, not 1, not 2. What about 3? Nothing happens. She goes through this process, what feels like forever. And like 2, no, hurt. 1, no, okay, that hurts too. 3, nothing. Let's try 2 again.
I know. What the fuck? Like, I know you can't read, but the deductive reasoning skills, girl.
Girl, come on.
Pick the one that doesn't hurt.
And even Lucian's just like, pick one.
Like, I would rather die than wait.
So she ends up pulling the 3rd lever, which stops the things, and everybody's kind of upset.
Well, I also don't understand, like, why she has the chance to get it right if her first choice would have been wrong. It should be like, you don't get a second chance. Like, if you're wrong, you're wrong.
Yeah, that's why, like, this also feels like a real softball of a challenge, right? Because, like, if you're throwing me into a pit that I can't escape with a deadly animal that's going to kill me.
Yeah.
Like, that's one thing. Putting me in a chamber with a math problem to solve.
And I get infinite tries.
Okay.
Like, I just get process of elimination. Like, and
Okay,
you give
girl.
me warnings that the wrong answers are wrong.
Well, that was Rhysand.
Okay, I forgot that was Rhysand. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
Amarantha wasn't helping her at all.
You're right. Okay.
But it reminds me of, like, Austin Powers / James Bond. Like, I'm going to put you in this very escapable place. Please die.
Please die. I'm going to tell you my entire master plan. Please die.
Please die. Right.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot that was Rhysand because I was like, girl, what? But it does still feel very softball. And again, with Rhysand's power and Amarantha's power, why is he allowed to keep his mind reading ability all the time when he's clearly helping her?
Yeah. It's a great question. So as Feyre is being brought back to the platform, she has the urge to fall to her knees and cry, but again, pain lances through her, and eventually she hears Rhysand in her head telling her to not let Amarantha see her break. He tells her to stand tall, stare Amarantha down, and not look at Tamlin. He then tells her to calmly walk out of the chamber, and Feyre does all of this like a good little girl, but when she's alone in her cell, she cries.
So I didn't really read it this way before. Like, I pictured this time her falling her leaves, the pain lances through hers because she's just in pain. But is that Rhysand's cue of, like, don't do what you're doing, so I'm going to cause pain? Don't cry.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I'm going to hurt you so you don't cry.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
Also, if you can just speak into her head, why not just give her the answer to the riddle?
Well, I think he doesn't want to freak her out because, like...
That's fair. That would freak me out, too. But also, why do you think pain would stop her from crying?
I don't know.
I'm going to start crying.
Great question.
Nope, I'm going to cause so much pain. Get the fuck up.
Ow! Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
So Feyre's crying and she's mourning everything, but she's especially mourning for the fact that she should have lost because she can't read and she only won by cheating.
Well,
She knows that she'll never beat Amarantha in her game.
but you kind of did, though. Like, I mean, sometimes you got to cheat. You won.
Sometimes you gotta cheat.
You won. And you saved. Also, I was going to say this before. Poor Lucian, because he is the target. Always. Well, this will change shortly right here. Because she doesn't know anyone else. Like, they couldn't bring Alice in or, like it's just Lucian because she's the only one she cares about. And he doesn't even want to be her friend.
No, it's just like, God damn it, Tamlin.
This is the fucking
I don't
worst.
understand why Lucian is still loyal to Tamlin.
He should.
Tamlin seems like kind of a shit friend.
He's the worst friend. Like, I just feel so bad that it's just always Lucian. Like, he got whipped for helping. He gets to be the dummy in this thing. Like,
Oh my God. You calling out that he's the one that's used because he's the only one she knows. I had not thought about that, but you're so right.
It's so sad because they barely have a connection. Like, I think she only lumps him in. I mean, they sort of have a friendship, but I truly think she only includes him in her list of like people I care about because he's an extension of Tamlin. They're not independent friends.
I agree. Yeah, I think you're right.
So this poor man, at least he gets to hang out with his mom. I don't know.
I guess. So in the middle of Feyre sobbing with grief, Rhysand comes to her and distracts her from her grief. He ends up licking her tears away off of her face, and she's so shocked at how she feels about it that it snaps her out of her wallowing. It's not all bad that she feels about it. Spoilers.
It is not. But I just picture him like a golden retriever licking her face.
Yep. It's like whenever my dog gets next to my 5-month-old and just all licks in the face. That's all he knows what to do with her right now.
I've seen that happen. I've seen that happen on camera a couple times, and her reaction is priceless. She's just like, what is this?
She's getting better at it. Like, she knows that Yogi is an independent thing now and is just like wants to interact with him so badly but doesn't know how.
Oh, and he doesn't know how either.
Yeah.
That's cute.
So Rhysand tells Feyre that he's been thinking about how to torment her when she visits him in the Night Court, and he wonders if teaching her how to read will be as painful as it looked during the challenge.
Asshole.
She curses him as he leaves, but once he's gone, she tells us, quote, whether he knew it or not, Rhysand had effectively kept me from shattering completely.
Yeah, he did know.
Yeah. He did know.
You definitely knew.
Because he can read your mind.
Also, why can he do that on top of why he already can do that?
So the next several days pass, and Feyre gives into the oblivion that fairy wine allows her. She realizes, quote, the future I had dreamed of was just that, a dream. I'd grow old and withered while he would remain young for centuries, perhaps millennia. At best, I'd have decades with him before I died. Decades. That's what I was fighting for. A flash in time for them, a drop in the pool of their aeon. End quote.
That was so well delivered.
Thank you so much.
I mean, yeah, girl, I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, truly. Like, okay, she has that thought, but then, like, later, spoilers, when she's turned into a fae, like, she's, like, not super jazzed about that. I'm like, what? Pick one.
Impossible to be pleased.
Yeah, just cannot be pleased.
She's not super jazzed.
Anyway.
Well.
One night, as her shadowy handmaidens take her to be prepared for the evening, they come upon the Ator speaking with some other fae. The handmaidens hide the three of them as they listen, and the stranger fae tells the Ator that Hybern is growing impatient, and that Amarantha would be a fool to cost him more time and resources. Hybern, he reminds the Ator, can take Amarantha's power away without spells and potions. The Ator doesn't have a retort to that, and that alone makes Feyre's blood run cold.
Because there's a bigger problem here.
There is a much bigger problem coming to you in Book 2. As the moment passes, the handmaidens tell Feyre that the other fae was, quote, treble, and that Rhysand will know of what they overheard soon, because he'll read their minds. Anyway.
Because they have no choice.
It's here, on some other random evening that Feyre is alone in her cell, that we get the music scene that you may have seen on TikTok. So this is the music that Feyre hears as she dissociates. It's a lilting, beautiful melody that she can almost see as it dances across an endless midnight sky. She follows the music out into a field, so she's like having a dream vision escapade. And past this field, she goes up to an alabaster palace in the sky where she instinctively knows that everything she loves dwells there. She feels an overwhelming need to be there and weeps. When the vision fades, she finds that she has the strength to move into the third trial. We learn later that Rhysand sent this thing. And I get it. I think it's a beautiful moment. It just felt jarring in the placement.
Yeah, I feel like this should have come far earlier.
Or after, before the thing in the hallway. Like, the thing in the hallway happened and it, like, interrupted this, like, this doom spiral, you know?
Yeah, you're right. And that gave sort of that. The thing in the hallway did interrupt that and kind of gave us like a break from it. And then we do the whole nighttime partying montage. And then now, so for this to be the thing that like brings her hope just feels very strange.
Yeah, like I feel like there should have been like some kind of taunting or like something that like reminds Farah of like how dire her situation is, that she would like be giving up, or like maybe we see her asking for more wine or like whatever. Like we see in the next scene that she's like almost to the point where she's gonna ask for the wine because it's not coming fast enough, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we should have seen that before we saw that.
That would make more
other
sense.
thing.
Like get me to a bottom. And then like have him lift her back up. But
because I didn't feel the bottom.
No, like she had the realization like, okay, I'm gonna die, but like I'm gonna die eventually, right? And then there's this weird hybrid conversation, but that's so separate from her that doesn't trigger a bottom for me. So it does feel jarring, and it is a really beautiful thing. It just felt so I didn't picture it being placed so weirdly.
Yeah, I didn't either. And like I for some reason thought that happened after the third trial. It obviously doesn't, but the placement just didn't quite hit for me.
Yeah, like I had it pictured like the night before the third trial. And like in my head, I fabricated this scene where she was like going to give up, like contemplating suicide, which like I know didn't happen, but like that's where it would make sense for me.
Exactly. Yeah, like tell me the things that she's thinking about before she needs this thing.
Yeah, we just get this thing.
Yeah. Anyway, it's the party on the eve of the third trial, and Feyre is waiting to be summoned by Rhysand. She's like dressed and ready and in the throne room, but he's like got some other lady on his lap, and so she's just like standing there.
Also, bro, let her sleep the night before the trial. I'm sorry.
Again, Rhysand might be evil. We don't know.
I'm not convinced. This is really bringing that theory into some valid light.
Harsh focus. Yeah. So as she waits, Feyre is despondent, and she muses that it's become difficult to even look at Tamlin in recent days. But as she stands there waiting for the night to be over, Tamlin comes to stand beside her. He like does the finger brush thing and then leaves and indicates that she should follow him, and so they both surreptitiously go to a secluded door into a dimly lit hallway.
So you can leave. Why can she leave?
Who has eyes on this prisoner? Like,
no one.
It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. There, Tamlin is on her. He pushes her against the wall and kisses her wildly. She gives into this, knowing that it could be the last time that they're ever together. She fumbles with his belt, and he bites her like he did on Fire Night. But before they can go any further, Rhysand clears his throat.
I hated that. I hated it. It just felt gross to me.
It felt very Peeping Tom.
Yeah, but even before that, like even Tamlin, like making this move felt gross to me. Like you haven't looked at me in 2 months.
Yeah.
And like now suddenly you're free to
I don't know how Feyre was just like immediately into this. Like I would need a little bit more emotional support.
Yeah, because there's no emotional support. And then we get like we'll get there, but it felt very like pat. Like,
yeah,
where Tamlin's like,
very gross.
You're gonna die, so I'm gonna get my rocks off, but I don't give two shits about you.
Yeah.
And then I also feel like this was orchestrated, which I feel like it very much was, or Rhysand was just waiting to catch them. But also, why? Like, why are you being so gross, bro?
Yeah, the whole thing with this feeling, there is something about this that feels orchestrated, but I can't put my finger on it.
No, because I don't know why it would have been, but it does feel orchestrated.
Yeah. Because Rhysand was leaving Feyre unattended. It's almost like Tamlin asked him to do that.
Yeah, and he agreed, but then came to cockblock.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think we get an answer to that.
I don't think so either, which feels also very disjointed.
Yes. So Rhysand's there, and he wonders aloud how Amarantha will react to knowing that Tamlin is fraternizing with the human help, as he puts it. Tamlin removes himself deliberately from Feyre and fixes his clothing. Rhysand vanishes the paint from Tamlin's hands, and Tamlin whispers that he loves Feyre before he leaves the hallway.
Get the fuck out of here,
Rhysand,
Tamlin.
get the fuck out of here, man. There's nothing for you. Rhysand then cages Feyre against the wall, saying that she's lucky that he was the only one watching and not Lucian's brothers, for instance. She spits back, why does it even matter? Why does Rhysand even care? But before he can answer, he hears someone coming, so he kisses her. Amarantha appears shortly afterwards with Tamlin, and she laughs at Feyre's supposed inconsistent, fickle heart. Feyre is crushed, but tells herself that Tamlin must understand what happened. And the fact that she's even thinking that he might misunderstand, girl, that's a red flag.
That's a red flag. Like,
Yeah.
and this also felt orchestrated. Like, Tamlin frolics away, and then Amarantha's like, where'd you come from? Let's go find out. Like, it just feels, this whole thing felt so weirdly staged.
Yeah, exactly. And it almost felt staged by, like, now that I'm thinking about it, it almost is like it's staged by Amarantha and Rhysand.
Yeah. But then I also don't know why
weird.
Amarantha didn't have more rage here. Like, who she's been painted to be is, I would, again, you're like, fuck, my whore is now fucking with you. I'm gonna beat the shit out of you again.
Right.
It's just so weird. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's
I just didn't like it. I just hated this. I hated this whole montage.
very weird. And I remember first reading this like, oh my gosh. And now I'm
Intrigue!
like,
Scandal!
I'm still a little bit like that, but like the motivations of the people in this just don't quite make sense.
No, and because it's not explained, it just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah. I'm also really interested to see, like, because we're going to read book 2 as closely as we've been reading book 1. And, like, I'm sorry that I have not read the first couple of times that I went through the series as closely because I really genuinely don't understand, like, whether we get answers to this kind of thing. But, like, the thing that's going through my head right now is Rhysand in this scene is asked, why do you care? And he's, like, mad that she, like, doesn't get it, right? And he's like, why would I care? It's like the whole, you know, who hurt you thing, but it's the why would I care?
Yeah.
trope. Because he loves her, right? And she's his mate. Spoilers. But then I think we learned that he was only sure that she was his mate at the very last scene in this book.
Yeah, so then everything before that is a little confusing because then why does he care at all?
Yeah, and then how does he say that thing like I've been looking for you? Like he had to have known like the whole time.
And I have this like vague recollection of like maybe the third book of him saying like I always had a pull to you and that's why I went to Fire Night or something. But then you're right at the end of this book is when it's like, oh no, this is what I knew. So what?
Yeah. I don't know. We won't get there in this book. So I'm sorry. We're talking about like things
Talking out of turn.
outside. Yeah. Anyway.
Hopefully you're all here for this ride and have the same questions.
Hopefully this isn't like a massive load of spoilers, but at this point, if you don't know, then like I don't know what side of the internet you're on.
Right. I'll put
Anyway.
a big old tag in the major spoilers for whole series in the notes.
Yes. Love that. So anyway, in the light of the throne room, Feyre can see that the paint that she's wearing is now smudged all over, but the blue that was on Tamlin's hands is now somehow on Rhysand's hands. Rhysand immediately dismisses her, but Tamlin doesn't even spare her a look as Feyre leaves. Back in her cell, hours later, Rhysand comes to visit again.
Get out of here. Okay.
Get the fuck, like, why are you
Fuck
here?
away from me.
Yeah. But he tells her that he just wants a moment of peace. And he's very open about how wrong everything could go for them and how much he hopes that it doesn't. And how Feyre is the only person that he can talk to about this that's not going to fuck him. I don't know how he figures that, but okay.
She's probably going to die tomorrow. I don't know.
Feyre wonders internally whether he's ever this open with anybody else. Spoilers, he's not.
Also, he just said he wasn't, but okay.
Right. And as he leaves, Feyre tells him that he could have asked for all of her days instead of bargaining with her like for just 2 or 10 days when he healed her. And he tells her he knows.
But he wants her to choose him, not be obligated to be with him, except for those 10 days.
Yeah, exactly. Except for those 10 days. Don't worry about it.
You gotta get to know me, okay? Then you can choose me.
Wine and dine me. Anyway, so the third trial is here, guys. Finally. And the final challenge is to kill 3 Fae. So these guys are let in with hoods on, and Feyre must drive an ash dagger into every single one of their hearts. So the first one is a young man who pleads for his life. So as she goes to like kill them, their hoods are taken off, obviously. So she kills the first one. The second Fae is a woman who only says a prayer and seems to accept her fate and absolve Feyre of any blame, at least in this woman's eyes. So she kills her. And then the third person is Tamlin. Whoops. Feyre reels, having already sold her soul to kill the first 2 Fae, and now she's like, what?
Right,
But
like I can't win.
I can't win if he's dead. I wanted to do this so I can spend time with him, but if I kill him, then he's going to be dead.
And if I don't
can't
kill him,
spend
then I
time with him.
lose.
I feel like there's no way to win.
No, there's not.
But then she remembers what Alice told her and all the things she overheard, right? Listen to the things that you were hearing. And she is fairly certain that even if she stabbed Tamlin in the heart, he wouldn't die because his heart is made of stone. So she stabs him and he doesn't die because his heart is made of stone. Here's the thing. Why is his heart made of stone?
Do we get an answer to that?
I don't know if it's a part of the curse or not.
But why would it only be his heart? Everyone else's hearts, those other 2 fucking died.
Well, it's got to be a part of the curse.
It has to be. But
But
then, like you said earlier, can he feel any feelings at all? Because the whole breaking the curse was like fall in love with a human or fall in love with an enemy, whatever, and they fall in love with you. But he never could have broken that curse because he can't feel any feelings.
But he says that he loves her.
Sure. But can he?
I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot about this curse that I don't know, and we don't get answers to that at least in this book. Unfortunately.
No.
So she does this. He doesn't die. Blah blah. But the masks of the spring court in the audience don't immediately come off. Amarantha goes on to boast that she didn't agree to when to set them free. Oh, plot twist.
The timeline matters.
Yeah, that thing that Feyre worried about what happened has come true. But people in the audience start to shout that that's unfair. But Amarantha doesn't pay them any mind. She just starts wailing on Feyre, like beating the shit out of her, like with her magic power. She's not like punching and kicking. She's just using her magic to like break bones and stuff.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, it's really bad. And as she's doing this, she's demanding that Feyre admit that she doesn't actually love Tamlin and that it was all a lie. She wants Feyre to admit that she's not good enough for him, for a High Lord, for Tamlin. As her bones are broken, Feyre hears Rhysand cry out her name in agony. She dissociates and realizes in that moment that the answer to the riddle is love. And as she says that, there is a palpable release of magic, and Tamlin immediately realizes that he is set free of Amarantha's clutches and eviscerates her against the wall. He pins her head to the wall with a sword and rips her throat out.
Which is great.
Ooh, amazing.
Great.
Unfortunately, Feyre dies.
I remember reading this book, and I think I texted you and Des, and I was like, the main character doesn't die? What do you mean she dies?
And you were like, keep reading.
Because I like, hard stop. I was like, this is a series, and you're going to tell me she's dead? What?
She died. So she does die, but she sees what happens next through the eyes of Rhysand, with whom she has some kind of connection, ostensibly because of the bargain that they made, and so her consciousness is still tethered to this world. Fine.
And then we see it through Rhysand's eyes, right?
Right. So we see the next series of events through his eyes. So what Rhysand/Feyre see is Tamlin cradling Feyre's body, and then one by one the High Lords approach her and gift a seed of light to her lifeless form. We learn that they are gifting a part of their magic to bring her back to life in repayment for her freeing them all. As Rhysand does the same, she hears him say, quote, "For what she gave, we'll bestow what our predecessors have granted to few before. This makes us even."
Ooh, gives me chills.
I know, right? As Tamlin gives his own little kernel of light, he whispers to Feyre, I love you. Oh.
How sweet.
How disgusting. When Feyre wakes up, she immediately realizes that she's been changed into a high fae, an immortal.
Wow.
Wow. When she finally turns to Tamlin, this was weird. She wakes up, she was in Tamlin's arms. She's not in Tamlin's arms when she wakes up. I guess he's just like standing back here somewhere, just like, hey girl, whenever you're ready.
Did she just like Mighty Morphin Power Ranger like away?
I guess. Cause she like, huh! And she like sees Amarantha, and then she like feels Tamlin behind her, and she's like, I don't want to look, I don't want to look, I don't want to look. And then she looks, and I'm like, okay, girl.
Yeah, what?
A little squirrely there.
It's a little weird. I mean, she did just die, so I guess that would be a bit jarring.
Yeah, she's been through a lot. Anyway, when she finally does turn to see Tamlin, she sees him for the first time without his mask on.
And he was hideous.
No, he's just what she thought he would look
I
like.
know. I just think it'd be really
A beige
funny.
crayon.
He's a beige crayon. He's a little golden boy.
A little golden twat. Anyway.
Twat.
So Feyre is elated, but she can't help but think about how she'd gotten there. She says, quote, what I had done to get to this moment, to be standing here, I shoved against the thought again. In a minute, in an hour, in a day. I would think about that. Force myself to face it. But she doesn't that day.
Trauma.
Sometime later, Tamlin heals what little remains of Feyre's injuries, and they're alone in some bedroom away from the oppressive activity in the wake of Amarantha's death. Feyre is spiraling, slowly losing herself to the guilt and the horror of what just happened, of what she did. But Tamlin doesn't push her when she says that they'll talk about it later. Sure, Jan. He then traces the tattoo on her left arm and promises that they'll find a way out of this bargain. Then they have sex, and again, it's very vibes only. Feyre is very clearly using this as a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
She tells us, quote, a kiss for each day we'd spent apart, a kiss for every wound and terror, a kiss for the ink etched into my flesh, and for all the days we would be together after this. Days, perhaps, that I no longer deserved, but I gave myself again to that fire, threw myself into it, into him, and let myself burn. End quote.
Healthy coping.
Yeah.
It's dark in here.
So dark.
It is very vibes.
Yeah, what'd you think of the vibes?
The vibes are fine. I think because if this were a graphic scene like we typically like, I think I would have felt a little gross about that because I think the point is that she is fighting with all this trauma. So like I can't have a sexy sex scene while she's spiraling out of control.
Yeah, because it's very clear, like, in the moment, she's like, I don't want to think about the horror. Kiss me.
Yeah, so, like, I think this being vibes only was fine.
Yeah.
Anything else would have been weird.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine just like, and then he put his cock in me. The horror! Like, ugh.
The squish felt the same as the blood that I felt as I plunged the dagger into their hearts. Okay.
Holy shit, that's dark. Oh, boy. I would have noped right out of that book.
Yeah, very vibes only. So then we move on. They fall asleep, but later Feyre is pulled awake by what she describes as a tugging at her middle, a thread deep inside. She follows the feeling to a balcony that opens up to the side of the mountain, and as her eyes adjust to the light, she finds Rhysand waiting for her, and his wings are out, girl. Bad boys unite.
All the way.
He tells her that he wanted to say goodbye. She glibly reminds him that, well, it's not forever. And then she remarks that she didn't realize that he liked the wings or flying. And he tells her that he rarely opens up about the things that he loves because they're so often taken from him.
Oof.
She then asks him why he did what he did, and he tells her, quote, because when the legends get written, I don't want to be remembered for standing on the sidelines. I want my future offspring to know that I was there and that I fought against her at the end, even if I couldn't do anything useful. Because I didn't want you to fight alone or die alone. End quote. Oh.
Yeah.
You might remember that this is something that Feyre said to Tamlin about the dude with his wings ripped off. Didn't want him to die alone.
Yeah.
Nice full circle moment there. So he then asks Feyre how it feels to be Fae, and she tells him, quote, it would have been easier to live with what I did if my heart had changed too. Meaning, if she had changed her human heart for a fae heart. She goes on to say, maybe I wouldn't care so much. Maybe I could convince myself that their deaths weren't in vain. Maybe immortality will take that away. I can't tell whether I want it to. End quote.
Oof.
Yeah.
Because their deaths were totally in vain. Not totally,
Yeah.
but like...
That's not what freed them.
It's not what freed them. And who knows when they actually would have been freed?
Yeah.
When she could have solved the riddle all along. Like, that's some heavy guilt to live with for eternity.
Yeah. No kidding. Rizan tells her something along the lines of, don't ever be ashamed or begrudge your human heart. Something to that effect.
Yeah.
And then he goes to leave, but something happens to make him go rigid with shock, and then he just evaporates into thin air. And Feyre pays this no mind. She's just like, well, that was weird.
This stopped me because I was like, what? What just happened? What just happened?
Yeah. Gentle reader, you will get an answer in book 2.
And it took me a hot minute to remember the answer because I was just like, what a weird fucking thing, bro.
Yeah, right? Are you okay?
Yeah, no, he's not.
So before Tamlin and Feyre leave, they and a few other High Lords destroy and seal Amarantha's court under the mountain.
Can we just put a pin in that? Because I'm confused.
I've got questions for book 2.
Big ones. No one lives there anymore. It's been destroyed and sealed.
Correct.
It's
No one
not
can
a
get in there.
court.
No. We learn that Amarantha's body was taken away to be burned and that the relics of Jurian are somehow missing?
What? Because they were on her body.
That feels bad.
Yeah, gross.
So Tamlin and Feyre take the magic tunnel back to the spring court, and as they crest the hill and behold the manor, Feyre lets herself feel happiness, especially when she sees Alice chasing after her 2 boys in the distance. And I picture her chasing after them with like a rolling pin for some reason.
That's what I picture, not like frolicking.
No,
I
it's
picture
not
like,
a happy chase.
Get back here!
Get the fuck back here! Yeah.
You damn dirty children!
Feyre remarks internally, quote, tomorrow, there would be tomorrow and an eternity to face what I had done, to face what I shredded to pieces inside myself while under the mountain, end quote. And that is where the book ends.
Oof.
Woof. Yeah. So, yeah, we did it. That's ACOTAR, man. Let's get into some ratings. I'll talk us through spice level because we both rated it a 1. And I think it should be fairly obvious why. Both of the scenes in this book were vibes only. There's some good sexual tension, like between Tamlin and Feyre. I remember what it felt like reading it the first time. Like, it gives you the stomach butterflies, the 3rd time around, maybe not so much. But
Yeah.
I would not classify this as like a smutty book.
No.
By any means, or a stretch of the imagination. And that will be a good thing getting into the next couple of books. So
Yes.
no harm, no foul there. This is like a stepping stone into the rest of the series. So Liz, do you want to talk us through writing style?
Yes. We both gave the writing style a 4. There are some really beautiful quotes. Sarah J. Maas is a really lovely writer. She does create really stunning imagery, and her characters have good depth. I don't feel evangelical about it, which I didn't the first time either. Like, I did more about the plot than the writing style, but there's not a lot of like grammatical errors, typos. The formatting is perfect, both in paper and on Kindle. Yeah, I just don't have a lot of notes. It's only not a 5 because it's not that name of the book that I can't remember
T.
now.
Kingfisher?
Yes, T. Kingfisher.
Nettle and Bone.
Thank you. All I could think was throne and glass, which isn't even right. So I'm going to take that a little bit from the top. The only reason it's not a 5 is because it's not the same writing style as T. Kingfisher, Nettle and Bone.
Right.
But I have no complaints. I have no problems. She's a great author.
Agreed. So then moving into quality of storytelling, we rated that a 3. And there's good and bad for this, right? Like, one of the things that I want to talk about is like, there's a lot that happens in this book. There's a lot of setup that happens in this book. And the fact that she packed it into 420-ish pages is like really impressive.
Yeah, it is.
But I will say that there are ways that she could have done that I think would have been better. So we've talked about a couple of them, but like it just feels like you're reading 3 separate books almost, because especially the last third like kind of comes out of nowhere with that whole plot situation. And I think that there could have been a little bit more weaving of some of the characters and some of the storylines into the first 2/3 of the book that would have made it a lot more cohesive. So for example, Amarantha popping out of fucking nowhere, Jurian coming out of nowhere, like all of these legends that we learn about, or I guess it's not legends, but history we learn about the world, could have been presented as legends earlier in the book and like contributed to some of the trepidation and fear that Feyre had toward Fae. As it happens, you know, Amarantha is not a nice person, but she's not like, she doesn't even instill that much fear in me like that dude did in the second High Mountain Court book.
Oh yeah, the one that we wanted them to fuck.
Yes.
I don't remember his name, but he was so scary. And
right,
we never
and he
even
was, like,
saw him.
Correct. He was effectively scary off screen, and that was because people talked about him the whole book.
About being scary.
So by the time you met him, you knew so much about him, and you're just like, this dude fucks, right?
Yeah, we're like, here we get a lot of she and her, and I think Sarah J. Maas was trying to play on the mystery of that to build the suspense, but it didn't. I think it would have been better if I had like a concrete character causing these problems.
Right, or give me something that she could plausibly be. So yeah, a lot of setup, a lot of things that could have been a little bit more well executed. Another one of those things is the whole Nesta thing. It's like Nesta is such a piece of shit. And then like she does one halfway decent thing and Feyre's like, everything's forgiven and she will definitely harbor a Fae and her 2 kids. Like that's just not how people are. And then also Nesta goes on to be a terrible person for like 4 fucking books. So
yeah, she continued. And then she's terrible for most of her own book, for being honest.
Yeah. And then the third and final thing is that this book commits the cardinal sin of like Feyre not having any friends.
It's such a cardinal sin. And that does change, but only a little bit because she just gets friends of her spouse.
Right. That's not the same thing as having your own independent friends. I'm going to make this argument when we get there, but I'll keep it now. I would argue that the Suriel is her only friend.
I think the Suriel is her only friend, and I'm super stoked to keep talking about the Suriel because I love the Suriel.
I love me the Suriel.
The Suriel's my fave character.
So, with that, Liz, do we recommend this book?
Yes, we do, and we're so excited to talk about the second one because, like, spoilers, we've already said spoilers, but I have questions. I got questions,
girl.
I need answers to my questions.
I got questions. I want to almost, like, write down all of my questions, or at least I'm going to go back and, like, listen to these episodes before we go into book 2, because I want to remember, like, I want to remember the details, you know, because they matter.
Yeah, I think we should. I definitely think we should, because some of these things I wonder, they could be plot holes or miswriting, and I'm not sure if they are or not, and I need to know.
Right. I need to know if they're inconsistencies or not.
That's the word. Thank you.
Anyway, we did it. Those are our thoughts on A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas, our queen. Thank you, as always, for joining us on this journey, and thanks for waiting for us for so long to do this book. We wanted to do it right, and I hope that we did and that you agree with it. But let us know what you think. You can find us on the socials, on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Goodreads at Spice Traders Pod.
We're also now on YouTube.
Hey, that's right.
You can now stream our podcast on YouTube.
Hell yeah. So find us on there if you like our podcast and you want more. And if you want to hear our coverage of book 2, girl, you're going to have to become a patron. But you can become a patron for as little as $3 a month. It really helps us out, helps us do this podcast. So if you want more, consider becoming a patron. And if you really, really like us, drop us a review wherever you listen. But until next time, we'll see ya.
Bye.
Bye.